Hey guys, what's good? This is the February 2026 Shane's Las Vegas Raiders podcast edition. And this will be my second episode. Like I said, I'll be doing one per month. So basically, what I have to touch on right now is we do have a new coach coming to Las Vegas. That would be Klint Kubiak, who was the offensive coordinator for the Super Bowl champion winning Seattle Seahawks as they defeated the New England Patriots. And he will be coming over to Las Vegas to be the head coach. And, look, he got a lot of praise as an offensive coordinator. And, of course, I'm one of these guys that's, saying the talent is what makes the coaches look good. You could draw up all these plays and have all these systems installed or whatever you want to call it, or whatever, formations and this and that, and look, the players execute whatever the coaches call. So if the players are better than the other team, and whatever play is called, most of the time the execution is going to be better, and it's going to make the coaches look better. Just like if the coaches were with a less talented team and they were making the same play calls, guys might not be getting open as easy for Klint Kubiak, with even with the Vegas Raiders this past year, because we had Geno Smith that was stinking up the joint in the pocket as a quarterback for this team. And again, I'm one of the ones that thought Geno was going to be good for this team, like a big upgrade over what's been here the last couple of years. Even though I'm an Aiden O'Connell guy, like I think Aiden O'Connell is pretty good, and I think he never really got a fair chance here. And I'd be more than happy if he's the backup of this team. Like, I think he's more than capable to get in there and find a way to win a game. Okay. So, but sure, getting Fernando Mendoza in this draft will be huge for the Las Vegas Raiders going forward, as I think he's going to be a complete quarterback. Like, everything I see that this kid does in college, everything he did at Indiana in helping guide Indiana to the national championship over the Miami Hurricanes, I see really no bad things in Mendoza. I mean, he has a quick release. He's accurate. He doesn't turn over the ball much. He runs when he has to. He prolongs plays in the pocket. He moves around to try to extend the play if the pass rush is getting to him. He could take a hit. I mean, this kid's taken some nasty hits. And that's the other thing, is that we were awarded the number one pick, of course, and that will be Fernando Mendoza, without a doubt. And look, it's you got a lot of rumors, people saying, oh, they may trade down and this and that, and look, they're not trading down. They're getting Fernando Mendoza, okay? Because that's what this team has been doing since Derek Carr was moved out of here. Is they brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, they brought in Gardner Minshew. Minshew should have been the backup to Aiden O'Connell. They tried starting Minshew, then they went to O'Connell. They both got hurt. It was a mess for a couple of years. And now, again, Geno Smith, I'm one of the first ones to say that this move, when Geno Smith's name came about, I said, shit, he's had, 3 pretty good years in a row in Seattle. But I did look at the statistics his last year in Seattle, and I saw he took a lot of sacks and he threw a lot of interceptions. So I kind of compared it to the 2 years previous, and he was a lot better those previous 2 years in Seattle compared to his final year in Seattle. But the other numbers were still there: high accuracy, completion percentage, high yardage total that he had. You threw a lot of, a good amount of touchdowns. I don't remember how many it was, maybe just over 20. But the thing is it carried over to Vegas. He took too many sacks. And then, of course, the offensive line got blamed for all this. First of all, the offensive line was banged up the whole year. Colton Miller, their best offensive lineman, missed the bulk of the season. Jackson Powers-Johnson, probably their second best offensive lineman, missed a good amount of the season. And Dylan Parham had injuries, guard. They just had a lot of injuries, and the depth is just not going to be what the starters are. It's not always going to be to where you can just take a depth piece and put them in and things are going to go good, because usually they don't. They're backups for a reason. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you have the right depth on a roster. Somebody's actually capable of stepping right in and being a starter, but that doesn't always happen. And that didn't happen with Vegas. And still, I would say, and watching most of the games, the majority of the sacks that Geno Smith took were on him. He just held the ball that extra second or 2 seconds too long, where you have to just throw it away. Make your mind up and just throw it out of bounds. Don't throw it into coverage. Don't take a sack. And he did that too many times. And I would say like one of his interceptions, I think he had 17 total. I think it was tied for the league lead. And maybe he was in sole possession, but he I think tied for sacks, taking the most sacks with Cam Ward from the Titans. But I would say only one of those interceptions really wasn't Geno's fault. That went off a receiver's hand. I don't remember what game it was. I think it was Dante Thornton, and the ball tipped off his hands, went into a defensive back's hands, and that was the one I would say that I wouldn't deem Geno's fault. Just like the majority of those sacks, a lot of those were his fault. And look, the offensive line, sure, some of it was their fault, And if you look at all these games, no matter who's playing, look at the Super Bowl, look at Seattle versus New England, look at how much pressure was on those quarterbacks that entire game. There was a lot of pressure on both quarterbacks the entire game. Darnold, I feel like, got it away more to where he just knew that he didn't have anything and he threw it out. He threw it away. Drake May, he's holding on to the ball too long. But none of these offensive lines, people need to really watch. And these are the two teams that got to the Super Bowl. There wasn't a ton of time for either quarterback on most of those plays. So you're living in a fantasy world if you're going to sit here and just rip the Raiders offensive line with injuries and say like, oh, this is a mess that Fernando Mendoza is coming into and they're going to get him killed and all this stuff. Give me a break. The Raiders offensive line actually, to me, is pretty damn good when it's healthy. And sure, they're going to add some pieces. Don't get me wrong. This may be free agency. This may be the draft. But they're adding 1 to 2 starters, I would say. Okay, I would say Colton Miller, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Caleb Rogers. I think those 3 guys start for sure. And then I think the other 2 spots, Caleb Rogers will be at right guard, Colton Miller left tackle. Jackson Powers-Johnson, we'll see. Maybe center, maybe left guard. We'll see. Or they put Caleb Rogers to left guard and Jackson Powers-Johnson at right guard, and they sign a center. There's a bunch of different ways they could go here. Right tackle, DJ Glaze. I don't know if he's going to stay the starter. He's still a young kid going into year 3, but they may go and try to solidify that with a free agent, a more capable, proven free agent, and move DJ Glaze back to a depth position spot instead of starting. So I think you're looking at 2 starters here coming into Vegas on the offensive line. And I do think that they need to add a pass rusher on defense. Now, here's the other thing that we want to talk about is the whole Maxx Crosby thing. And of course, this has been going on for a couple of years now. Like, does Maxx want to stick around? He wants to win. Is he he's tired of the rebuilds? There's a retools, I call it, not rebuild. Rebuild is like, changing your entire roster, where the Raiders mostly have a young team. I mean, they have like one of the youngest teams in the league, especially now with Geno is going to be gone. They're going to have like one of the youngest rosters, if not the youngest roster in the NFL. So they've been rebuilding in the process for a few years while adding veteran pieces that could kind of like patch over certain positions like quarterback. Now they have the opportunity to finally get a future, what I think is going to be a franchise for sure, elite quarterback. And they've only picked number one other time in franchise history. Picking number 1 is not a good thing, folks. That means that you did the worst, okay? Or you were tied for the worst and you just won on a tiebreaker, and that's what happened with the Raiders. They technically had the fewest wins, 3. They were tied, I believe, with the Jets, and they just won the number 1 pick on a tiebreaker, is why they're picking number 1. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to have number 1 picks. You don't want to have top 10 picks. You want to be picking late in the first round every year, okay? Because that means you're winning. And that means you're winning a lot. And the only thing that matters to me is championship. So getting to the playoffs and losing is nothing either. It's all about getting Lombardi trophies back with the Raiders organization, just like they did in Oakland, just like they did in Los Angeles. And now they got to carry it to Las Vegas and try to get first Lombardi number 4, which hasn't come. Lombardi number 3 came in the 1983 season. That's been a long time, folks. So we got to get going here, and we got to figure out what's going on with Maxx. And there's all these reports coming out again. He wants to be traded because he's pissed off with being held out of the last couple of games and being put on IR, even though he had torn meniscus and had to have surgery. He still wanted to play. And then there's a report coming out that says that he told Tom Brady, "I'll never play for the Raiders again." I think that that's horseshit. I think that he's going to stay with the Raiders, but we'll see what happens. They're saying that the Raiders want to keep Maxx Crosby, but for a high enough ransom of draft picks or whatever, maybe a proven player involved with a couple of picks, they would then consider trading Maxx Crosby. So, anything's possible. Look, he was on the other day doing interviews, and he was in his Raiders gear. He was at the team facility working out. That doesn't seem like a guy that's saying he's never going to play with the team again. You're wearing team clothing on television while you're doing interviews, and you're at the team facility working out. So for somebody saying to Tom Brady, "I'm never going to be a Raider again," that seems like somebody that would be like doing their workouts anywhere but the team facility and doing anything but wearing Raider gear. Now, maybe he did say that to Tom Brady out of frustration. Maybe he was so pissed off when he stormed out of the facility that day when they said, "Hey, we're shutting you down and, your season's over." And maybe he did tell them that. Maybe he was that pissed that he said, "Hey, I'm never going to be a Raider again." But then there's time to think about things. And he's a very spirited guy. He's a very team-oriented guy. Maybe he actually did say that. Whoever that came from, I don't know. You got Jason LaFontour. I forgot how you say his last fucking name, the analyst. He's the one that's reporting this. Just like Jay Glazer comes out and says, "Oh, yeah, Maxx wants to be traded again." They've been saying this for a couple of years. Hasn't happened. So I would bank on Maxx staying. And in that case, I would say we still need another edge rusher. There's some good ones out there. Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Phillips. There's a few. So we need to get one of those and bring in, Malcolm Kuntz I would consider keeping, but more as a depth piece. So we'll see, man. No hate on Malcolm Kuntz. Look, he had 8 sacks a couple years ago. He missed an entire season. He came back. I think he had 4.5 sacks this last season. Yeah, but I would go with something else starting on the right end of the defensive line. Defensive tackles, we got some good Adam Butler I like, a couple young guys in there. But we'll see what happens. Linebacker, I think they'll probably go after one of these guys. Maybe Walker from the Packers. Cornerback, I think is a possibility. They're going to make some ads here, guys. They got a lot of money to spend. They're going to have close to $100 million, probably over $100 million once they'll probably restructure some contracts, make some cuts. They're going to have over $100 million to spend. But I think that this team, and I thought this the last couple of years, that they had good pieces. Good pieces that could compete, but the quarterback position has definitely hurt them for sure. That's injuries and just bad play. Like 2 years ago again, or really started with Garoppolo. Garoppolo barely got a chance with the Raiders, but when he did, he wasn't good. And he got hurt, never came back. Aiden took over a couple of years ago. 2 years ago, Minshew, he got hurt. Aiden came in, he got hurt. It's just, it's like a revolving door. And then this past year, Geno missed a couple of games, or one game, I think he was sat out. Or no, maybe 2 games he was sat out. One, he was injured. The other one, they just sat him out, I think. So, either way, Geno was not good. Too many interceptions, too many sacks taken. I would say adding a receiver also is a possibility. I don't think it's a tremendous need, especially when you have a go-to guy like Brock Bowers, catching the ball, and you still have Michael Mayer, you got Trey Tucker, you got the young receivers, Jack Beck, Dante Thornton, who are gonna, get more more opportunities to catch balls. And then you got Ashton Jenney, of course, who's he's going to get the workload on this offense, running and catching. So I don't think a receiver is totally important here, but of course, so what I'm saying is I don't think in free agency you're going to see them go and spend big money, and there's not anything really great out there free agency wise as far as receiver goes. Maybe in the draft, sure, you get to the 3rd round and there's a good receiver sitting there. Yeah, maybe they take it, so we'll see what happens. But I think mostly couple offensive line ads, couple defensive ads. I think this team is going to be good. And Mendoza, I think he's going to be, ready to go game one. And he's going to be ready to play in the NFL right away. So the press conference hasn't happened yet. I'm not sure when it is. Maybe today where I'm recording, but it's going to happen soon with Klint Kubiak being announced as the new Las Vegas Raiders head coach. And then I will report back next month. I will have another podcast. And by then, I'm going to wait till after free agency starts because I want to start, saying what the Raiders have done here in free agency. So I don't want to, do it before that. I want to do it. So it's going to probably be like the second week of March sometime. And then, I'll have all the updates, transactions of what's happening with, who the Raiders picked up, who they let go. So anyway, guys, look, it's been a long time since the Raiders have won. And I say won meaning win a championship because that's all that matters. But I think we're getting on the right track. Mendoza, Bowers, Genty, at least on offense. Got to keep Maxx. Got to keep Maxx here. Got to keep the captain around. We'll see what happens. All right. So I'll be back next month with another Raiders podcast, and I'll have more updates again on what the Raiders did in free agency. And again, I don't want to do these things all the time. Like people still do these podcasts every single day and they talk for 5 minutes and I'm not doing that. I'm giving you everything in the span of what's happened in a month. And you see how fast I did that in under 20 minutes. So it's, it's not necessary to do all this shit every single day, every week, when I could just get it all in the span of a month. So I'll see you next month with another Las Vegas Raiders podcast. See you.